Chapter 1178. In the sky above Seoul Society, a white light flashed across the blue sky, and 3 figures stepped out from it. Without exception, each of these figures looked dispirited and exhausted, as if they were patients who had just recovered from a serious illness, dispirited and listless. These 3 people were Sajin, Higashi Shiro, and Ichigo Kurosaki. You all look very sad. Go to the 4th Division first. I've already ordered them to prepare the treatment equipment in advance. We can immediately give you first aid. After a pleasant voice, Unohana Retsu appeared in a flash. The members of the 4th Division behind her all went to support the 3 people who could not even stand properly. Thank you, Captain Unohana. Ichigo Kurosaki and the others quickly thanked her and went to the 4th Division to receive treatment under the escort of the members of the 4th Division. They actually didn't die. Looks like Shinkuen miscalculated. Looking at the 3 people who were running away, Unohana Retsu's face was covered in frost. Her body was covered in a faint blood-red light. At this moment, she looked exceptionally terrifying. Her shocking degree of brutality was comparable to a peerless killing god. The surrounding air was filled with the smell of blood. Even the air that went deep into the lungs was mixed with the nauseating smell of blood. I'll kill you all on Shinkuen's behalf. In the Kamui space, the air was filled with a lewd smell that made people's minds wander. Looking down, the 2 white bodies were especially eye-catching. I will definitely not let you off so easily. Just you wait. Also, you better not mention a word about this to me. If anyone else knows about this, I'll definitely take you down with me. After tidying up his clothes, Shidoro Senjumaru was filled with killing intent. The cold light shooting out of his eyes was like thousands of blades. There's no need to hate me so much. After all, you're one of my people now. We should all work together. Helping me is the same as helping yourself, Senjumaru. Seeing Shidoro Senjumaru's expression of hatred and disgust, Dustless frowned and rubbed his temples, trying to relieve the pressure. Help you? What nonsense are you talking about? You want me to help someone who stole my most precious, the culprit who stole my virginity? Ridiculous. Don't even think about it. I will definitely kill you. Towards the end of his speech, Shidoro Senjumaru's hair stood on end. He was like a peerless devil, and his entire body was suffused with energy fluctuations that caused people to have a lingering fear. However, facing Dustless, she was unable to draw her sword against him. There was a huge gap between their strengths, and attacking him would only bring disgrace upon herself. That's your freedom. I can't control you. Even so, there are some things that I have to say. Regardless of whether you trust me or not, I have to solemnly tell you that I will be responsible for you. Dustless raised his head and muttered to himself. There was no trace of regret in his indomitable spirit. Are you sure you want to be responsible for me? Sensing the decisiveness and freedom in his tone, his cold and dusty heart is slightly touched. Shidoro Thousand Hands Maru says faintly, if you want to make up for the debt you owe me, that's fine too. Give me your... Dustless's body trembled when he heard that. The gaze of Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru was actually looking at his. I'm telling you, don't mess around. Uncontrollably shivering, Dustless was speechless. He didn't expect Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru to want his most important thing as a man. If it's possible, and you allow it, I'm very happy to cut it off. Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru didn't hide anything and immediately said, I need your Jinzi to do an experiment and investigate your body, so you want to unlock the secret of my body. Dustless suddenly understood. He didn't care about this. He was afraid that this woman wanted to open up the seal to deal with him. Dustless was a real jubi. Even if it was successfully analyzed, it wouldn't have the slightest effect. Moreover, he had countless trump cards. You want to do an experiment? Sure. Dustless chuckled with a naughty smile on his face. But you can come and get it yourself. Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru was stunned, then her lungs were about to explode. She angrily pointed at Dustless and scolded, You despicable villain, do you want me to solve it for you? Then do you want me to solve it myself? Dustless's eyes narrowed into a crescent moon, and the smile on his face was full of evil. Shudora thousand-handed Maru hesitated. Looking at Dustless's sinister face, she could only stomp her feet. Unless she didn't want Dustless's Jeansy, she must solve this crucial problem at hand. You bastard, solve it yourself. Shudora thousand-handed Maru, who couldn't put down her face, ordered with a black face. Sorry, my hands are congenital and can't do that kind of thing. Since you can't do it, then we can only stop here. I'll open the Shenwei space now. Let's go back. As he spoke, Dustless's pupils began to twist, and the space in the world of Shenwei had signs of gradually collapsing. Hold on. Shudora thousand-handed Maru's eyelashes trembled, and she quickly stopped him. How could she let go of such a rare opportunity? In the end, she could only reluctantly say, sit still, if you dare to mess around with me. Don't blame me for being ruthless. I will definitely make you regret it for the rest of your life. Chapter 1179. Dustless's face was glowing. It was rare for him to obey someone else's order. He sat on the ground obediently and looked at Shudora thousand-hand Maru with anticipation, indicating that she could start. Using force and taking the initiative were always two different concepts. Shudora thousand-hand Maru's face was red. She could explain Dustless using force before, but now she was taking the initiative to help Dustless. The concept was completely different. If other people know about this, I'll be struck by lightning and die a horrible death, cut into pieces. Dustless was speechless. He secretly sighed that Shudora thousand-hand Maru was smart but muddle-headed. Who would go out and talk about this kind of thing? Especially using force to take her was not a glorious thing, it was not worth showing off. That's for the best. Her white chin moved slightly. Recalling the huge thing that was rampaging in Dustless's body just now, Shudora thousand-hand Maru resisted the discomfort in her heart and grabbed it. Wait, you have to use your hands, you can't use your bony hands. Seeing the bony hand reaching over, Dustless cursed in his heart and shouted, if you can't do it, then you should just kill me. You have to use your hands. Impossible, shaking her head like a wavy bone. Shudora thousand-hand Maru rejected Dustless's suggestion without even considering it. Then let's break up. Shrugging, Dustless stood up again. His pupils twisted and surging eye power shot out. The mysterious alternate space was about to collapse and disappear. Come here. Seeing this, Shudora thousand-hand Maru's face changed and shouted, you better stop before you go too far. It's impossible to use my hands. Change to another way. Another way? Hearing this, Dustless couldn't help but be stunned. Staring at Shudora thousand-hand Maru's pink cherry lips, he smiled and said, I see, you actually plan to use your mouth? Why didn't you say so earlier? This will work too. Bullsh *T. Shudora thousand-hand Maru's delicate face darkened. She stared at Dustless and sneered, you better not threaten me. The consequences are definitely not something that you can bear. I didn't force you. You asked for it yourself. Dustless rolled his eyes and said as if it had nothing to do with him, in short, you can choose between your mouth and your hand. Give me an answer in 1 minute, or I will immediately remove the Shenwei world. Dustless kicked the ball to Shudora thousand-hand Maru. In the end, he closed his eyes peacefully and signaled her to choose whatever she wanted. I didn't expect her to value her chastity so much. She usually acts like she doesn't care about it, but in the end, she treats it as precious as her own life. Dustless secretly despised in his heart as he looked at Shudora thousand-handed Maru's solemn little face. About a minute later, he opened his clear eyes. 1 minute is up. What's your choice? He opened his mouth and said coldly, I can't promise you anything. Settle it with your own hands. I'm a handicapped person. Don't force me to do something I don't want. Dustless waved his hand and refused. At the same time, he activated his eye power again. The Shenwei world was gradually collapsing. After a few seconds, Dustless and Shudora thousand-handed Maru appeared in the outside world. Stop it. You win. I choose to use my own hands. Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru's face turned red. She could only choose to compromise. She was so angry that she secretly gritted her teeth. She swore that when she developed new items in the future, she would not let Dustless go. TSK. In the end, you still agreed to my condition. Dustless sat on the ground and then lay down without moving. He rested his head on his arms and began to enjoy the next happy life. After all, she was one of the only 5 members of Team Zero. Just this identity alone was enough to make Dustless excited. Ouch, it hurts. You didn't do it on purpose, did you? You should be content. It's already a blessing that you didn't cut it off. Hurry up and cut it off between your fingers. I'm scared just looking at it. No, this is for my work. Is that so? Then I can only remove the Shenwei world. Let's go our separate ways. Wait, I promise you. For 4 hours, Dustless had been threatening Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru. In order to obtain Dustless's Jingzi, investigate his body structure, and develop new items to deal with Dustless, Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru was willing to pay any price. Her rationality was burned by the flames of revenge. She did not reject any of Dustless's threats. Dustless was also in pain and happy at the same time. It was not until close to 3 hours later that Dustless removed the Shenwei world. In contrast to the energetic Dustless, Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru was sweating profusely. Her face was pale, and her right arm was sore. After working for several hours, she felt like her right arm was going to fall off. Just you wait. I will not let this matter go. Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru said coldly as she glared fiercely at Dustless. If it wasn't for the discomfort of her body, she might have already stood up with Dustless. Don't worry. It won't be long before we meet again. And the next time we meet, I reckon you won't even dare to lay your hands on me. Dustless ignored Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru's threat and smiled mysteriously. The next time we meet, either you die or I die. Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru's face was filled with boiling killing intent. Her gaze locked onto Dustless's face for 2 to 3 seconds. Shidoro Thousand-Handed Maru dragged her tired body and slowly left. The next time we meet, I will change my identity. I won't speak to you as an equal as the head captain, but as a spirit king looking down on your Zero Squad. Chapter 1180. Inside the 4th Division's quarters, Dustless could not help but raise his eyebrows as he looked at the trio in the ward through the window. How unlucky. I thought that 1 or 2 of them would die, but all of them are still alive. That Thousand-Hand Maru just has to be a busybody. Otherwise, the 3 of them would probably disappear from this world. Dustless grumbled under the shade of a tree in the distance. Originally, he wanted to use this opportunity to get rid of Sajin and Higashi Shiro. Who would have thought that they would be so tough? Captain Sajin and Captain Higashi Shiro have been opposing us for a long time. We need to get rid of these 2 obstacles. Beside Dustless, Unohana Retsu nodded in agreement. At this point, she had completely stepped onto Dustless's pirate ship. The chances of her turning back were close to 0. She could only walk down this path to the end. It's fine. Let them be free for a few days. Dustless waved his hand, indicating that Unohana Retsu did not need to worry. If they died in the 4th Division for no reason, it would definitely raise suspicions. Even if Dustless was the head captain, he would not be able to cover for them. Speaking of which, how's the situation on your side? Shidoro Thousand-Hand Maru is very difficult to deal with. Unohana Retsu asked curiously as her gemstone eyes circled around Dustless. Pa. Dustless chuckled and lightly pecked Unohana Retsu's face when she was not paying attention. Of course I dealt with that difficult woman. Otherwise, with Thousand-Hand Maru's temper, do you think I would still be alive? Dustless rolled his eyes and replied with a question. He then told Unohana Retsu everything that had happened. She's probably going to explode from anger. After a while, Unohana Retsu said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Although she was disgusted by Dustless's methods, she could not deny that it was the most effective. If I was not as strong as her, I would have been cut into pieces already. Dustless felt a chill run down his spine when he thought of Shidoro Senjumaru's personality as a mad scientist. Then, he rejoiced and said, but taking away her chastity can shut Senjumaru's mouth. She can't go out and say that she was raped by me. So, you don't have to worry about Senjumaru in the future. Anohua's smile was too beautiful to behold. Sometimes, the most despicable method was the most effective. Next, it's time to deal with these weeds. Staring at Zhuozhen and Toshiro Rifen, Dustless's face suddenly turned cold. In Seoul society, there were still many captains who opposed him. For example, Higashi Shiro of Rifen Valley, Sajin of Katsumura, Sui Feng and Kumubaya. These unstable factors had to be dealt with before they could invade the Spirit King Palace. It's better to do it secretly. Right now, there's Aizen Sosuke outside, Yawatch in the dark, and Squad Zero in the dark. If we are exposed, there will be very few people who are on our side. Unohua said worriedly. It was not hard to see that Dustless's situation was not good. Retsu, there's no need to worry. They're just a bunch of small fries. Anyone who has been attacked by Aizen Sosuke's Hogyoku is as good as having a guillotine on their neck. Dustless said with a relaxed smile. His words showed that he did not care about Aizen and Yawatch at all. He would not stay in this world for long. After dealing with Aizen and Yawatch and devouring Soul King, Dustless would choose to go to the next world. Those who always oppose me must be sent to the afterlife. Since they like the former Captain Yamamoto so much, I'll fulfill their wishes. I'll be a good person until the end. They're all dead? Aizen Sosuke frowned and asked in confusion, who did it? Thousands of Killian were killed just like that. Did Dustless do it himself? Aizen Sosuke could only think of one person with such shocking strength, Dustless. It's not him. It's a young woman. She's very strong, stronger than anyone I've seen before. Killian is at most an ant in front of her. Ulquiorra explained. Then, he dug out his eyeball and crushed it with a bang. The huge eyeball turned into thousands of pieces and floated into Aizen's mind like a movie. So it's Squad Zero. After thinking for a few seconds, Aizen muttered, forget it, it's just Killian. There's no need to care about those small fries. Tell the 10 blades to be careful. Soon, our plan will begin. Understood, Aizen-sama. Ulquiorra said respectfully before disappearing without a trace. It seems the situation is worse than I thought. Dustless and Soul Society are troublesome enough, and now Squad Zero has joined the fray. Aizen Sosuke felt a headache coming on. He touched the sphere in his stomach and said in relief, but after I completely fuse with Hogyoku, this ownerless throne of heaven will be branded with Aizen Sosuke's name. Time flew, and 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the first squad's quarters. Last time, you failed to kill with a borrowed knife. Do you still want to live this time? In the empty hall, the terrifying screams of the head captain, Dustless Ghostly, rang out, making people tremble with fear. Are you sure this method will work? A gentle voice sounded. It belonged to Unohana Retsu. Of course it will. First, we'll deal with Sauzawa. Don't worry about him for now, he's just a small fry. Everyone in Soul Society knows about the relationship between Sauzawa and East Sensei. It's understandable if Sauzawa betrays us one day. After all, they have a close personal relationship. Wu Chen said with a confident smile. He had already thought of a plan to wipe out the left side of the village. Chapter 1181. In the 4th Division's quarters, the Shinigami's recovery ability was extremely amazing. In just a few days, although Higashi Shiro and Shinozaki Ichigo had not fully recovered yet, Sajin, who had the body of a beast, had fully recovered. Captain Unohana, is something the matter? Sajimura Zuozashi, who had already changed into Captain Heori, asked curiously. Unohana Retsu rarely paid attention to him. There are reports that a great void has infiltrated the 65th district of drifting Soul Street. The captains of the various divisions are still busy. Unohana Retsu frowned and said worriedly. Great void? Hearing this, Zuozhen was stunned for a second, and then he immediately volunteered, leave it to me. I have recovered from all my injuries, and I can find a group of Great Void Realm experts to practice my skills. My body is going to rust if I lie in the 4th division. Are you sure you want to go? Unohana Retsu asked again with a cautious tone. The head captain said that the origin of that great void is very big. He told us not to act rashly for now. Even if that man is the head captain, I will never acknowledge him. Speaking of dustless, Sajimura Zozashi was furious and left the 4th division in a huff. From the looks of it, he was heading towards Divorce Street. As soon as Sajimura Zozashi left the ward, Unohana Retsu's smile disappeared and was replaced by endless coldness. Retsu, I was right. As long as you mention my name in front of that man, he will immediately go berserk. Wuchen suddenly appeared behind Unohua Lai and hugged her waist. He gently sniffed Unohua Lai's body fragrance and his hands began to move involuntarily. Don't mess around. Slapping away Dustless's hands, Unohana Retsu asked suspiciously, is the person you found reliable? The other party is a great void on the level of Vastolord. What if he resists? Don't worry, Nero's loyalty to me is second only to Hellable. Dustless gave her a comforting look and was extremely calm. Unohana Retsu did not know whether to laugh or cry. At the same time, she deeply admired Dustless's methods. On the surface, he was the head captain of Soul Society, the leader of the Grim Reapers, but behind his back, he was actually plotting against Spirit King. Not only that, he also raised 2 top-level Great Void beings like Vastolord. Not only that, but it also seemed to be inextricably linked to Quincy. The 65th district of drifting Soul Street. Strange, it should be here. It doesn't seem like the Great Void has invaded. Zuozhen looked around. Although it couldn't be said to be a paradise on earth, at least it was very peaceful. The faces of the people passing by were full of peace. In short, there were no signs of the invasion of the Great Void Realm. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, a green light flashed in the void, and the earth-shattering explosion attracted the attention of Zuozhen. He hurriedly used Shuanpa to search for the source. Not only him, but the captains of Soul Society had also heard the news and rushed over to the 65th district of drifting Soul Street. It seems to have started. I hope Captain Kimura has good luck. In the sky, 2 black afterimages whizzed by. The one who spoke was Dustless. I hope we won't be exposed. Compared to the optimistic Dustless, Unohana Retsu was obviously more worried. Retsu, don't worry. In this world, there are only 2 people that Zuozhen values. One is the fallen captain, and the other is East Sage, whom he has known for 100 years. Zuozhen, who had rushed to the center of the scene, opened his eyes widely and saw everything in the world like the waves of an ocean. A great void being standing in the void quickly attracted his attention. You are a Ranka? Zuozhen asked coldly as he pulled out his Zanpakuto. You have guts to break into Soul Society alone. Even if you are Vastolord, you won't be able to escape. My name is Niru. I was sent by Lord East Sage. Among the 10 blades, I am ranked 3rd. The mysterious great void being, Niru, said. Lord East Sage? You mean East Sage? How is that guy? Zuozhen asked anxiously, ignoring the fact that they were enemies. Niru nodded, and replied, it is indeed him. Remembering Dustless's instructions, Niru continued, Lord East Sage is in Soul Society. He is in Soul Society? Take me to see him. Zuozhen was very excited. He was afraid that Niru would be suspicious, and said, I am a friend of East Sage. We have known each other for 100 years. Zuozhen took out the photos he kept. The 2 of them leaned close to each other. At that time, they were not Shinigami yet. That's fine. Niru nodded and pointed to the east, come with me. Hueco Mundo's temporary base is there. Regardless of whether Zhuozhen agreed or not, Niru left first and disappeared in a rainbow. There? I remember it's the 80th district of Luhun Street. Zhuozhen thought for a moment and followed. He was confident in his strength. Even if he couldn't win, escaping was not a problem. So. Zhuozhen increased his ryatsu, and his speed increased several times as he approached Niru. When he opened his mouth and was about to ask East Sage, Qin Tian's roar exploded throughout Seoul society. Damn you, Zhuozhen. I have treated you well, but now you are colluding with the enemy behind my back. How dare you? Wu Chen's sorrowful and anguished voice spread throughout the entire Seoul society. His tone was filled with anger and flames that soared to the sky. Dustless stood in front of Niru and Zhuozhen like a ghost. He shouted angrily, "You colluded with the enemy, and this great void is Aizen's 10 blades." Chapter 1182. Wu Chen's face was filled with sorrow, as if he had suffered a great humiliation. His entire body was suffused with murderous intent, and a murderous aura filled the air. Even the sky 1,000 feet away was incomparably cold. It was as if this place was not Seoul society, but the snow-covered easternmost land. Saozawa opened his mouth and looked at Nero beside him. This was a great void at the level of Vastolord, and she was also one of Aizen's subordinates. I didn't betray Seoul society, I just went to rescue East Sage. Saozawa said firmly. You didn't betray Seoul society? Hearing this, Dustless was so angry that he laughed. He pointed at Nero and shouted, "You and Hueco Mundo's Vastolord are standing side by side. If you want to prove your innocence, get out of my way. Otherwise, I have the right to treat you as a traitor." Dustless threatened, his words full of murderous intent. Saozawa lowered his head and hesitated for a while before saying, "After I bring East Sage back to Seoul society, I will listen to the head captain's punishment. As for now, I won't surrender." You want to piss me off?" Dustless's old face was red. He looked at Saozawa with bitter hatred, but his heart was overjoyed. The opportunity in front of him was to completely deal with Saozawa. No one would say anything if a traitor killed him. Is that so? Since you insist on not repenting, I can only deal with you impartially. Wu Chen's cold eyes were fixed on the left side of the village. His whole body was surrounded by a murderous aura, and his cold eyes were even colder than ice. Dao Breaker, head captain. Just as Dustless was about to subdue Saozawa, a group of captains rushed over. Looking at the tense situation, they were worried. Aizen Sosuke was eyeing Seoul society like a tiger watching its prey from the outside. What if a fight broke out inside Seoul society? "Captain Saozawa, please step aside. Is that a great void next to you? Catch her first." The captain of the 2nd Division, So Feng, said. Her face was full of vigilance as if she was facing a great enemy. She could feel a strong sense of danger from this great void, and the invisible pressure made her feel very uncomfortable. He won't step aside. Zhuozhen has betrayed Seoul society. With a stern expression, Dustless fanned the flames and said, he and Vasto Todd are standing together. This explains everything. All the captains were stunned when they heard this. They looked at the left side of the village in disbelief. This old man will not regret it. Eastern deity is my close friend. From Hueco Mundo, but now you are standing with the great void. Without giving Zhuozhen a chance to speak, Dustless said in a hoarse voice, "Put down your Zanpakuto before I get angry, and I can let bygones be bygones." Sir Head Captain. Hearing this, all the Shinigami looked at Dustless in shock. They all knew about the conflict between Zhuozhen and Dustless. Letting him go this time was a great favor. A bunch of idiots. I said this because he will definitely refuse my conditions. Wu Chen was beaming with joy in his heart. He knew Zhuozhen's character. He would never give up on the Eastern deity. That was why he said that. Otherwise, he would have killed this stinky bear long ago. I have to pull Eastern deity out of Aizen Sosuke's black nest, so I'm sorry. Zhuozhen said decisively. I think I have treated you well, but you are going against us for a mere Eastern deity. Damn it. Wu Chen said sadly. Then, he ordered bitterly, Captains, listen to my order. Now, arrest this treacherous traitor for me. All the captains looked at each other, but they didn't do anything. Bastard, are you waiting for me to do it myself? Dustless said with fire in his eyes. His eyes looked at Kachiki Byakuya, Nishitani Shiro, and the others. They didn't care, obviously, they didn't care about Dustless's words. These bastards are really two-faced. On the surface, they treat me as the head captain, but there are almost no people who really listen to me. Looking around, Dustless saw the changes in everyone's expression. He was a new captain who hadn't even been in office for a year. Naturally, he wasn't as prestigious as Yamamoto. Well, you are no match for him. Give me a chance to kill him personally. Dustless's eyes bloomed with killing intent. He quietly condensed Ryatsu in his palm and gave Nero a subtle look, indicating her to leave Soul Society quickly. Kakaka, the black voice flashed out of thin air. Because it was too fast, the captains didn't expect it and watched Nero leave. Everything happened too suddenly, and they only realized it when the black voice closed. Since you don't repent. Then I'm sorry, Captain Yamamura, I can only remove your name from Soul Society. You have only yourself to blame. Dustless's cold eyes locked on Sajin, who was abandoned by the world, and the killing intent in his body boiled. Captain Yamamura, let go. We will cooperate with the head captain to arrest you. Shunsui suddenly said, making his position clear. Yukitake Jushiro looked at him doubtfully and also nodded. If Dustless personally made a move, he didn't even need to think to know that he would absolutely be miserably annihilated in the end. Sajin was Yamamoto's disciple, and like Shunsui and Yukitake Jushiro, he certainly didn't like to see his fellow apprentice killed. These two bastards are very cunning. But it's best if you are willing to do it. Dustless thought and restrained his killing intent. He also understood their idea, but it didn't matter whether Sajin died or not. In short, he would be removed from Godai 13. Even if he didn't kill him, Avicii Hell would be Sajin's eternal home. Chapter 1183. Unohana Retsu looked at the scene in front of her quietly without any emotion. There was only one thought in her mind, pity and sympathy. You guys are no match for him in terms of strength, and in terms of intelligence, you guys are even worse than Shinkun, who seems to have the ability to predict the future. You guys are inferior to him in every aspect. I really don't understand why you guys would blindly resist. Unohana Retsu couldn't help but sigh in her heart. They knew it was a dead end, but they still chose to resist. Even if they were killed, they would be seeking their own death. For example, Zwa Jitsumura. There are only two people I respect the most in my life. One of them is the head captain who led me to the right path. The other is East Sensei, who has been my friend for 100 years. If you guys really think of me as a friend, please move aside. Zwa Jitsumura replied stubbornly. His Zanpakuto's words were cold and piercing. Captain Jitsumura, don't be stubborn. Soul Society is where you belong. East Sensei has already fallen. Shunsui Jingle tried to persuade him with a friendly tone. It was very persuasive, making people lower their guard. However, if his target was a block of wood, it would be useless no matter how eloquent he was. Zwa Jitsumura was like that. He only had East Sensei in his heart. Shunsui Jingle's words were ignored. In the end, you guys haven't made a move yet. As expected, this kind of thing is better left to me. Who told me to be the bad guy? Dustless stretched his waist and took a step forward, sweeping to the front of Jingle Chunshue and the others. Head captain, no matter what, Captain Takemura is our former colleague. We just need to capture him. There's no need to kill him. Remembering Wuchen's cruel method of eliminating the root of the problem, Yukitake Jushiro reminded him worriedly. It's hard to control power. It's best if Captain Jitsumura surrenders himself. If he chooses to resist, it's normal for him to lose an arm or a leg. Dustless's smile was very evil. If the previous head captain was as hot as the sun, then the dustless in front of him was as dark and terrifying as hell. His entire body was filled with an ominous aura. He was like a devil wearing the clothes of the god of death. The corner of his mouth and the teasing eyes, including his cynical smile, were the most realistic portrayal. Don't give me that look. Even if you're the head captain, this old man doesn't approve of you. You bastard. You are the main reason why East Deity fell into the void. When enemies saw each other, their eyes would turn red. Right now, Zhuozhen was like this. His huge eyes turned red, and his entire body was filled with violent destructive energy waves. Dao Breaker 73, Dual Lotus Azure Flame Fall. Blazing flames swept over, raising the temperature of the surrounding air without limit, evaporating the moisture in the atmosphere. The dry feeling was nauseating and extremely uncomfortable. Destroying the environment is a big problem. As the captain, you don't even have the determination to protect Soul Society. Dustless's cheerful manner caused all of the captains to be slightly stunned, and they all lowered their heads at the same time. It wasn't without reason that he was able to become the head captain. At the very least, he had the ability to remain unfazed even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. Buzz buzz buzz, right at this moment, a ripple suddenly appeared in the void, and a vortex gradually expanded. Kamui. Dustless shouted, and the vortex instantly expanded by more than 100 times, forming a small black hole, and the attacking Dao Breaker was suddenly sucked in. Like a stone sinking into the sea, there was no movement at all. Hateful. It's like God deliberately sent him to go against me. Zhuozhen, who was clenching his iron fist, muttered. His big mouth full of fangs was terrifying, and his eyes were full of fear and unwillingness as he looked at Dustless. Gritting his teeth, Zhuozhen finally chose to release his Zanpakudo, boom, Heaven's Wrath. Shoo shoo shoo. The sky suddenly turned dark. The captains raised their eyes and looked into the depths of the void. A giant foot was falling from the sky, and the exaggerated area was comparable to a mountain. Retreat, this is the localized Heaven's Wrath. Xuansui's pupils shrank, and he quickly ordered. He took the lead to pull Jushiro Yukitake back to avoid the falling giant foot. Retreat? We, the Shinigami, have to retreat in the face of a traitor, then who will protect Soul Society? Looking at the giant foot falling from the void, Dustless whispered, and the earth cracked, and the mountains in the distance disintegrated into particles. Uchiha Flame Formation. The solid ground trembled inexplicably, like an earthquake, and then a blazing flame rose from the ground, and a red demonic luster rose from the ground, and a flame barrier tens of meters high was exposed to the air. What is that strange thing? Shunsui and the others exclaimed with their eyes wide open. When this huge barrier descended, it was as if they were in the furnace of hell, and the whole world was very hot. Boom boom. Finally, under everyone's surprised gaze, the falling giant foot kicked the flame barrier, and the flame barrier trembled violently, and it seemed like it was going to break. Most people thought that it would be a lose-lose situation, but who would have thought that the giant foot directly evaporated like water and disappeared without a trace? Between heaven and earth, only the ancient flame barrier was left, and it was filled with the ancient atmosphere. Chapter 1184. Zhuozhen was trembling with anger. Because he was a Leakin, his hair stood on end. His face was filled with despair, unwillingness, and hatred. Why is it that the more treacherous and despicable a person is, the more powerful they are? Zhuozhen questioned the sky. It was rare for him to complain, and his tone was desolate. What a pitiful insect. The more you stick to the rules, the weaker you are. Those who know how to take advantage of the situation, the stronger they are. Dustless turned a deaf ear to Zhuozhen's hatred. There were at least 1,000 people who hated him. There was no need to care about them. They were just insects not worth mentioning. Those who liked to hate others were actually the most useless. Take Zhuozhen for example. If he had the strength to kill Dustless, he wouldn't hate him. He could just kill Dustless with one slash. Out of sight, out of mind. But he couldn't, so he hated Dustless. Boom, boom, boom. Sojin didn't hold back at all. He wanted to fight to the death. Only in this way could he break through the defense of these captains. He had to save his only remaining friend in this world, Higashi-sensei. Although Arankuen's method is despicable, this Sojin is also stubborn. He is determined to follow Sosuke Aizen. You won't be able to persuade him with just a few words. Unohana Retsu shook her head. In her eyes, Sojin was just seeking death. He didn't have enough strength, but he still wanted to show off. This kind of person would die the quickest. Tao Breaker 88, Flying Dragon Strikes the Thief. The thick beam of light was like an unsheathed divine sword, slicing the entire sky into two halves. Want to run? Dustless narrowed his eyes. He suddenly felt that Sojin was about to run. He snorted, "If you run away in front of me, I'll give you the position of head captain." Wuchen sneered. At the same time, 6 black iron rods shot out from his hands. A hexagonal special enchantment was immediately formed, isolating the entire world and completely cutting off all contact with the outside world. 6 Crimson Suns formation. As Dustless's voice fell, the sealed world was airtight, and there was no way out. The left side of the village was also sealed inside. The toughness of this enchantment was beyond imagination. It could even withstand the Baijidama of the 10-tailed beast without being affected. The strength of this enchantment was self-evident. There was almost no attack in this world, and any creature could leave this place. Unless it was a foreign species like the Void who could open a black chamber at will. Don't make a fool of yourself with your insignificant brilliance. Dustless's eyes were blurred by the blinding light. He simply waved his hand and extinguished it. The light beam that flew over exploded beside him, but it did not have any effect. Dustless's clothes didn't even touch Dustless's clothes. In an instant, he became a transparent person who could ignore all attacks. It was as if fireworks were casually set off in the sky. It was just for show, and the probability of it hurting someone was 0. Gulp, just as the battle was getting intense, Dustless's stomach suddenly growled. Ayaya. It seems that I have to end this quickly. It's not worth it to starve me because of you. Seoul Society's cuisine is still my favorite. Zwezhin's head was full of black lines, and his hands that were holding the Zanpakuto almost dropped. He stared at Dustless indignantly. He was a dignified captain, but he didn't even have the time to eat with Dustless. It was simply disdaining him and treating him as a worthless garbage. Jingle Shunshui and the others were helpless. The first thing to learn in a one-on-one battle with Dustless was not the skills, but how to prevent oneself from being angered to death. Bankai Kalasutra, King of Heaven's Wrath. The armored giant's head reached the sky, and his feet stepped on the ground. His powerful legs could crush the world, and his slender sword could kill all creatures without any effort. Watch me destroy your garbage enchantment now. Zwezhin shouted after Bankai. His confidence skyrocketed, and he looked contemptuously at the enchantment that was thinner than paper. His face was full of sarcasm. Do as you wish. Dustless chuckled and looked at Zwezhin playfully. He grabbed a blade of grass from nowhere and stuffed it into his mouth with a gloating expression. Bang bang bang. With just 2 steps, his huge body shook the mountains and rivers, and the earth was as fragile as paper. With a gentle step, countless cracks would appear. Clang clang clang. Zwezhin pulled out his sword from the scabbard, and after gathering enough strength, he slashed at the enchantment with all his strength. Bang bang bang. He thought that the enchantment would burst in an instant, but unexpectedly, the enchantment was intact. Instead, the huge body of King of Heaven's Wrath was mercilessly bounced back and fell to the ground. The mountain behind him was smashed by him. This enchantment. What the hell is it? How can it be so extraordinary? The captains were stunned. Dustless casually threw out 6 black iron rods. They thought that it was just to buy time, but now it seems that although it was as thin as a cicada's wing, its hardness is beyond any enchantment known at present. The most unpleasant thing is that this kind of powerful enchantment seems to be only Dustless can use it. This is not fair. Chapter 1185. Dustless looked at the embarrassed Swazashi, and at the same time, he winked at the captains beside him. See, this is what happens when you overestimate yourself. Everyone, take this as a warning. The captain's expression changed slightly. In the eyes of others, this might be a joke, but in their ears, it was more like a warning and deterrence. Sai, Shunsui and Yucatake looked at each other and saw the helplessness and sadness in each other's eyes. This was a secret warning to the captains, or they might face the same fate in the future. These captains were not fools. According to Dustless's strength, he could take down Swazashi in 2 or 3 moves. Humiliating him again and again was probably a warning. Their true intentions were not in the wine, and the spearhead was directed at the group of captains. Boom, boom, boom. The overbearing spiritual pressure swept out, and the whole world inside the seal was shaking and could collapse at any time. The thick murderous intent locked onto Dustless. Hey, you don't have to stare at me, I won't let you out. Facing Swazashi's ferocious eyes, Dustless didn't care and smiled. No matter what, although I don't know how this barrier is made, as long as I kill you, it will naturally collapse and collapse. While talking, the giant already stood up. A pair of massive eyeballs were like copper bells, even much larger than Dustless's head. Kill me? With just you? Dustless laughed in disdain when he heard this, and he said with ridicule, there are really many people who overestimate their ability. For the sake of the so-called fetters, they clearly know that they aren't a match for the other party, yet they insist on coming to give away their lives. Dustless gradually lost his playful mood and looked serious. Apparently, he was starting to take this seriously. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Noticing Dustless's strange state, Swazashi attacked first, and a huge blade wind swept towards Dustless. Clang clang clang. He didn't even use his Zanpakuto. Dustless directly grabbed the 10-meter-long blade with his right hand. He didn't use any tricks, he just grabbed the blade with his hand. Just how strong is his body? Even his spiritual pressure didn't work. Shunsui and the others were shocked. Although a captain should have the strength to kill a captain-level Shinigami, this scene was too exaggerated. Dustless didn't even use his spiritual pressure. TSK TSK TSK. Let's dissect it and see what it is made of. Nyamaoli sneered and thought to himself. You want to kill me with your half-baked skills? Go back home and train for a few hundred years. Grasping the huge blade of the long saber tightly, Wuchen suddenly exerted force and threw it to the left. Under everyone's horrified gaze, the saber-wielding Zhua Zhen on the other side was naturally thrown away. All of them were thrown away by Wu Chen's tyrannical strength. Boom boom boom. His huge body slammed into a mountain in the distance, and Kalasutra's wrath was thrown more than 20 meters away. His huge body crashed into an unfortunate mountain and caused it to collapse. How much strength is needed to do that? The group of captains took a deep breath and suppressed the trembling of their bodies. Initially, they thought that although this head captain was powerful, there was a limit to measure him. Most of them thought that Wuchen was at the same level as the previous head captain, Yamamoto Genryu Shigekuni, or even weaker than him. Now it seemed that they were wrong. Without the slightest bit of Ryatsu, head captain Yamamoto relied on his body's hardness to catch a full-strength attack from a captain with his bare hands. It was still a big question whether the old head captain Yamamoto could do it. All in all the captains were afraid of Dustless. Ow 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 ow, the roar resounded in the space inside the enchantment, and everyone's ears were stuffy. This violent tone was full of thousands of helplessness and hatred, as well as unwillingness and fear, and many other complex emotions. Looking at it, it was Swazashi with a sad expression. Do I have no choice but to surrender? Swazashi's face was full of unwillingness, but he had to admit that he was not Dustless's captain. He was as weak as a child who had not grown up. In the face of a muscular adult, he could only be beaten up. The edge of 1,000 hands can't be touched, the hand of darkness can't be reflected. Fast treasure, big wheel, the gray turret, the bow is drawn far away, and the bright light dissipates. Swazashi began a long chant, and at the end, many pink lights flew out from his hands. You are indeed the captain's student. Ordinary captains may not be able to use this Heido, but you can chant it. It is indeed worthy of praise. Dustless gave him a look of appreciation. Heido number 91 was indeed powerful. Heido number 91, Thousand Hands Bright Sky Cannon. Countless pink lights swept over, and there was no time to dodge at all. The number was like a storm, blocking all escape routes. But with your level, you are still too weak. Let's stop here. Focusing on the incoming lights, Dustless's right eye changed. A white flower eye flashed, and his hands closed, and a huge tornado came out. Silver Will Reincarnation Explosion. The violent wind swept out, and the attacking lights were instantly shattered. Swazashi's huge body was a rare live target, and he was completely swallowed by the tornado. Poochie. 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 Inside the tornado, a bloody scene played out. The biting cold wind turned into thousands of cold blades, mercilessly waving at Swazashi, and dismembering him in an instant. Large pieces of flesh fell on the ground, and Swazashi looked like he was being executed. The bloody scene was too horrible to look at, and even these experienced captains could not help but feel disgusted. They could not help but distance themselves from Dustless. Chapter 1186. Silver naturally saw the strange state of the captains, but he didn't care. As the head captain, he had to maintain the absolute strength that was enough to intimidate the Godii 13. It was good to let them know the difference between them. That way, there would always be idiots who overestimated themselves coming to challenge him. Huh. He can still stand up. Lycans have amazing recovery ability. Silver's tone was calm, but there was a hint of surprise. Following Dustless's gaze, Sujin stood up again. Even if his body was crushed, he still didn't give up. No, he's already at the end of his life. It's his willpower that's supporting him. How sad. Seeing this, Dustless felt a bit of sympathy for this bear. He cared about Higashi Sendai, but Higashi Sendai only cared about Sosuke Aizen. A pitiful person must have something to hate. Endless light appeared on his fingertips, and the destructive light beam locked onto Sujin. Path of Destruction, Head Captain. Not giving Dustless a chance to attack, Yukitake Jushiro came forward and pleaded, although Sujin is guilty, he doesn't deserve to die. Not to mention that he has worked for Soul Society for hundreds of years. How about we put him in hell to reflect on his mistakes? Hearing this, Dustless didn't say anything. The light in his hand continued to flicker, and his cold eyes quietly observed the captains. After a few seconds, the light disappeared. Looking at Sajin's miserable appearance, even if he could recover, his combat power would be greatly reduced. After all, his Zanpakuto was crushed by Dustless. The most important thing was that this eyesore would be removed from his position as the head captain. It didn't matter if he was killed or not, as long as he left the Godii 13. Then let him go this time. Dustless pondered, and his eyes turned into Sharingan. He stared at Sajin, and the Magatama emitted a strange fluctuation. Boom! In the end, under everyone's shocked gaze, Sajin couldn't bear the burden anymore and fell to the ground. He was exhausted, and he instantly stopped his Bankai posture. Head captain, even if Suajin can be spared from death, he still has to be punished. The captain of the 2nd Division, Sofone, stepped forward and suggested, "How dare you publicly partner up with a great void? This has crossed the bottom line of Soul Society's tolerance. You will be sentenced to at least 1,000 years in prison." All the captains nodded their heads in agreement. Why don't? Shunsui and Yukitake Jushiro looked at each other in dismay. The words that were about to come out of their mouths were swallowed back into their mouths. Dustless glanced at the two of them. There's no need to lock him up for so long. I believe that Captain Yamamura is loyal to Soul Society. He was just tempted by that despicable Vasto Lord and Sosuke Aizen. When Dustless mentioned Aizen Sosuke, he clenched his teeth and made a decision. That's why I've decided to spare him the death penalty this time. However, he still needs to be punished. I'll imprison him for 3 years. I hope he can turn over a new leaf. The Godii 13 will welcome him back. Buzz buzz buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, the captain lost his ability to think. He stared at Wu Chen, dumbfounded. When did this narrow-minded head captain become so generous? The group of death gods all felt that it was impossible. They immediately sized up the awe-inspiring and righteous Dustless. Everyone, Soul Society still needs everyone to work together. We have to be united in front of the enemy. Dustless said firmly. His face was full of generosity and he forgot about the grudge between him and Zhuozhen. You idiots! How can you believe such words? Dustless's face was full of righteousness, but he was laughing in his heart. The entire world might end in 3 years. He could just leave by then. Of course, there was no need to imprison Zhuozhen for so long. A few years of confinement could win over people's hearts. Everything ends here. Everyone, go back. Dustless waved his hand and said righteously. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the 1st Division's building. Dustless had just finished listening to the report from the 12th Division. Ever since Sosuke Aizen defected, his every move had been monitored by Soul Society. Seems like it will take some time. I can't rely on Sosuke Aizen to make King Keys. The only way is to directly invade Soul King Palace. Inside the empty team house, Wu Chen's low murmur sounded. Do you need me to go with you? Unohana asked expectantly. To be honest, she was quite curious about Soul King Palace. There's no need for that. If you go, I'll have a lot more scruples. The Zero Squad isn't anything good. For the sake of the Spirit King, they're willing to abandon everything. Even if it's their old friends, they're willing to fight. Dustless shook his head and said. Thinking of Soul King's strange appearance, he couldn't help but laugh. There was nothing good about that appearance. He was just a monster whose limbs were chopped off. What about Soul Society? The head captain's sudden departure is suspicious. Unohana said. That's even less of a problem. Didn't you see that when Mayuri looked at me, his eyes were a lot more respectful? That old man and I have yet to resolve our grudge. Dustless chuckled. After going around Zhuozhen, the Godii 13's captains had changed their opinion of him. You are really despicable, Chinkuen. Unohana said in admiration. She admired Dustless's ability to win people's hearts. It wouldn't be long before Yamamoto's influence in Genryusai Shigeki disappeared. Chapter 1187. Unohana had to admit that sometimes, a soft knife was more useful than a hard knife, and the effect was even greater. Furthermore, I can leave the shadow clone in Soul Society as a cover. I can just cancel it when I'm in the captain's meeting. It's just a formality. Dustless said indifferently. Not to mention that it was impossible to find out. Even if those captains found out, what could they do? What they could do was next to nothing, because Soul Society had no way to contact Spirit King Palace. Lie, the next time we meet, I will be changing my identity. Do you want to celebrate? Dustless suddenly changed the topic and smiled. Change your identity? Hearing this, Unohana was startled at first, then asked in confusion, You are changing your identity all the time. Head Captain, 7th Division Captain, 4th Division Vice Captain, and many other random identities. What are you going to change to now? That's not what I'm talking about. Dustless shook his head mysteriously. Although he had many identities, none of them were useful. You are about to invade Spirit King Palace, and you still have time to think about these random things? Unohana pouted her lips and grumbled. Could it be, suddenly realizing something, Unohana said in surprise, the next time we meet, you won't be a Spirit King, right? Ayaya, you are so smart. Come, give me a kiss. In the mysterious space, a visible ripple appeared in the void. Although the ripple was negligible, the members of the Zero Squad who lived here were all experts among experts, so they rushed over at the first moment. 5 figures gathered here, and all of them looked at the hole in the sky in shock. What's going on? A guard from the War Master's division thought to himself. He looked at the 4 people who had confused expressions on their faces and saw that they were also confused. After a while, the ripple expanded and formed a mysterious hole. A figure walked out from it. A person? How did he enter Spirit King Palace? How is this possible? Una Hua Tongxing said in disbelief. She pinched her own skin, and the pain made her realize that this was not a dream. Yo, I didn't expect everyone to be waiting for me here in advance. What an honor. A familiar voice came from the void, and the blurry figure gradually became clear. Dustless walked out with a frivolous expression and a frivolous smile. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. There was only Dustless in the sky, and 5 figures suddenly appeared and surrounded him. Wang Yu's Zanpakuto was already at Dustless's throat. Oh my, is this how the Spirit King Palace treats its guests? Completely ignoring their cold gazes, Dustless faintly glanced at the Shudora thousand-handed Maru. Pervert with a belly full of evil tricks. Seemingly having sensed Dustless's gaze, Shudora thousand-hand Maru snorted softly. Hearing this, Dustless smiled awkwardly, opened his mouth, and said straightforwardly, "If you know what's good for you, hurry up and get out of my way. To tell you the truth, I came here for Spirit King." Like a stone stirring up 1,000 ripples, these words immediately attracted 5 pairs of angry eyes. All the members of Team Zero looked at Wu Chen with rage. "You really don't want to give up, it was a mistake to let you out." A soldier of Hyodo Division said with hatred. His whole body was overflowing with cold light, and his shiny bald head was covered with a layer of cold air. "Have you forgotten about the seal I placed on your body before? You've got guts." Hua Tongxing reminded, indicating Dustless not to act rashly. "That kind of thing? Do you think it's useful? Do you think I will be afraid? If I was really afraid of Team Zero, do you think I would dare to come?" Dustless sneered contemptuously, and his left eye was swallowed by Rinsei Sharingan, and a sudden repulsive force erupted from his body. Shinra Tensei. Caught off guard, the 5 people were easily bounced back. "Get out of my way, those who block me will die." Looking at the giant palace in front of him, Dustless stepped forward. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 5 figures flashed together, like an iron wall in front of Dustless, blocking his way. A soldier of Hyodo Division picked up his Zanpakuto and wrote a giant seal word out of thin air. A transparent barrier suddenly isolated the Spirit King Palace. Good ability. Seeing this, Dustless nodded and praised. Although so, his tone was extremely frivolous. Obviously he didn't take it to heart. "We have fought before, you are not my opponent, let me go, don't force me to kill." Dustless's casual expression disappeared, and his murderous intent was revealed. The temperature of the space within 100 feet dropped rapidly, and his whole body was filled with dangerous fluctuations. The existence of Team Zero is to protect Spirit King. If Spirit King is dead, do you think there is any meaning for us to exist? A soldier of Hyodo Division didn't back down. He held his Zanpakuto in his hand, and not only him, but the other 4 captains also did the same. "Even you want to resist me?" Dustless's cold eyes splashed some ripples. He looked at Shout Oro Thousand-Hand Maru and said, "I will say it for the last time, I am not killing Spirit King, I am making him a part of my body. This way, I will become the new Spirit King, and Team Zero will also be liberated. You can do your own thing, no need, no." Shaking his head like a rattle drum, a soldier of Hyodo Division was extremely stubborn. "Don't talk nonsense. If you want to hurt Spirit King, you have to step over all of our bodies." The members of Team Zero were all determined. Humph. Dustless's murderous intent skyrocketed, and when he was about to use his eye power, he suddenly stopped and took out the star badge that belonged to Quincy. With a fierce smile on his face, he could use this opportunity to test Old Man Yamamoto's unique skill, Zenkan no Tachi. Chapter 1188. How powerful is Zenkan no Tachi? No one knew, and even if they did, they would be sent to the underworld by Yamamoto. But one thing is for sure, it's a weapon that can destroy the world. Because of its power, Yamamoto only used it once in thousands of years against Yawatch. This temperature? It's Zenka no Tachi. The members of Team Zero widened their eyes. Obviously, they are no stranger to Zenka no Tachi. I plan to take away the ability of the captain's Zanpakuto. Because of that, the captain was easily killed by Aizen Sosuke's Kyoka Suigetsu. So it was you who killed Yuan Lusai, you despicable bastard. The members of the Zero Squad glared at Wu Chen, glaring at him fiercely. I'm already dead. Even if you kill me, it's useless, not to mention that you want to skin me alive. Instead of reminiscing about head Captain Yamamoto, why don't you think about how you're going to deal with me, who has Zenka no Tachi? Wu Chen chuckled and shouted at the same time. Everything turned to ashes, Ryujin Jaka no Tachi. After saying that, a tachi wrapped in flames appeared in Dustless's hand. The moment it appeared, the temperature of the whole world rose. Everyone couldn't help but feel despair. They were terrified of Dustless's strength. This monster can fight all the Shinigami without Zenka no Tachi. Now, he's like a tiger with wings. No one in the world can be his opponent. Everyone, please don't forget the responsibility of Team Zero. Sensing Wu Chen's apocalyptic aura, a soldier from the War Master Division had no choice but to raise his voice. In particular, the relationship between Wu Chen and Shidoro Thousand-Hand Maru and Sayaso Tongsai made him daydream. 1,000 miles heaven palm. The enormous hand swept out rapidly, grabbing towards Dustless's entire person. Naive. Seeing this, Dustless didn't dodge. His body didn't show any signs of elementalization. He wanted to test the power of Zenka no Tachi. Dustless's surroundings were covered in flames. Fire rejection. The incoming spiritual pressure was instantly destroyed. Before it could even touch Dustless's body, it was dismembered and fused with the scorching heat. Damn it, this power, and this move is definitely flowing fire edge. Wang Yu of Ermiwu, who was known as the Saber God, said with a pale face. He really couldn't understand why the heavens were so biased towards Dustless. Could he be God's illegitimate child? Wang Yu wasn't the only one who had such a strange idea. Everyone in Team Zero had the same thought. Otherwise, how could Dustless possess so many heaven-defying abilities and a heaven-defying cheat like Ryujin Jaka? There was no doubt that God was an illegitimate child. Buzz buzz buzz, the blade of the Zanpakuto emitted a dazzling brilliance, and the endless flames began to surge, and an unprecedented heat could be felt from 100 feet away. It was as if he had been thrown into a steamer, and the entire world was scorching hot. As expected of the strongest fire element Zanpakuto. This power, if I didn't have the Jubi's characteristic to regenerate, I would have to be extremely careful when facing Captain Yamamoto. He's only one person, but there are 5 of us. We have the advantage in numbers. Don't panic, let's besiege him together. At this moment, a soldier from the Hattori division shouted. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 5 members of Team Zero divided into 5 groups and attacked from 5 directions. Their speed was extremely fast, and their attacks were extremely fierce. 2 fists can't beat 4 hands, we 5 against you, what qualifications do you have to fight with us? A soldier from the Hattori division shouted loudly. 2 fists can't beat 4 hands? That's true, but that's effective for ordinary people. This iron principle doesn't work for me. Wu Chen's line of sight suddenly moved to the toilet. Wu Chen's lips curled up into a cruel smile. The soldiers of the War Master's department who were rushing over could be seen clearly. Soldier from the Hattori division, have you ever been hit by your own move? Dustless smiled creepily, and his strange Sharingan turned, as if he could see the moves of the soldier from the Hattori division in an instant. Using my own move to attack myself? If you can do it, I will immediately bow down to you. A soldier from the Hattori division sneered, and his face was full of disbelief. The other members of Team Zero were also disdainful. If he could imitate their moves with just a casual glance, it would be too much. Is that so? Dustless ignored their disapproving expressions, and suddenly raised his palm, and a huge wave of energy flew out. Then I welcome you to be one of my subordinates, Hattori Division's first soldier, 1,000 miles heaven palm. The same big hand that the first soldier from the Hattori Division used before flew out, and the sharp edge of the hand caught the soldier in an instant, and then it clenched fiercely. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of a ghost head cracking could be heard, and a large amount of blood slowly dripped down, and the soldier was easily crushed into minced meat. In front of this pair of eyes, do you really think you have the power to resist? Don't be so self-righteous and laugh at me. The deafening arrogant laughter resounded in the Spirit King Palace, and the members of Team Zero were shocked speechless. The first soldier from the Hattori Division was the leader of Team Zero, and he was killed so easily. Hattori Division's first soldier. Wang Yu from Momiya was the first to come over, and then he was surprised to find that the minced meat on the ground had reformed, and he was revived again. What a troublesome ability. Dustless saw this scene, and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. You can't kill me. The first soldier from the Hattori Division smiled confidently, and then he looked at the five-color city eagerly, hoping to see Dustless's defeated face. But he was destined to be disappointed. Although your resurrection ability is heaven-defying, it is not invincible, and you need to borrow the strength of others to revive. I just need to kill everyone, and you think you can still revive? Bankai, Remnant Flame Tachi. Chapter 1189. The fire wave at the tip of the blade was restrained, as if someone had poured a basin of cold water on it, and all of it evaporated. The tip of the blade only emitted a wisp of hot steam, and the blade also changed. It was unexpectedly scorched. At the same time, the remaining water in the atmosphere gradually evaporated until nothing was left. The special space, the whole world began to collapse. Most of the white buildings in the Spirit King Palace started to crack. It can even be solved, the members of Team Zero were stunned. Even with the temperament of Soldier Division's first soldier, he was stunned. There was only one thought in his mind: Shinigami is finished. The terror of Zanka no Tachi was more useful to him than anyone else. Dye it black, Ichigo. Sensing that the water in the atmosphere was gradually evaporating, Soldier Division's first soldier didn't hesitate to release Zanpakuto. Only in this way could he barely regain some of his shattered confidence. The other members of Team Zero were no exception. They looked at each other and launched more ferocious attacks on Dustless. Heido 90's Black Coffin. The Ryatsu in his body surged. Sayako Kiryu was the first to use his ultimate move. Heido 90's edge swallowed Dustless from all directions. A mere Heido is nothing. With an arrogant smile on his face, he gently raised Zanka no Tachi and waved it gently. All the incoming attacks collapsed. Zanka no Tachi West, waning sun prison clothes, a terrifyingly high temperature rose from Wu Chen's body and enveloped his entire body. In the face of the black light that was attacking him from all directions, he merely glanced at it and ignored it. Without any defense, the black light was unstoppable. The moment it touched Dustless, they thought they could kill him. Who would have thought that the black coffin would turn into ashes in an instant? It was directly evaporated by the high temperature of 15 million degrees. Do you still have a chance of winning in my state? It's harder to get close to me. Wu Chen, who was wearing a Ryatsu coat, said. His words were full of contempt. The strength of Team Zero was just like that. They were just paper tigers. When you think they are strong, they are naturally strong. When you think they are weak, they are naturally weak. You bastard, the first soldier's face turned green. His thick beard trembled. It was clear that he was furious. This was an undeniable fact. Normal attacks would evaporate if they got close to Dustless, not to mention attacking him. That's right, although this guy is currently invincible, he's not a flawless existence. A thought flashed through his mind, and a soldier from the Weapon Master Division suddenly laughed sinisterly, looking extremely sinister. What is this old baldy planning now? Dustless frowned and asked in confusion. He had been secretly observing every move of the soldiers in the War Master's department. even the slightest change could not escape his eyes. Dustless saw the subtle changes in her expression just now. I don't care what schemes you have. In front of absolute strength, everything is futile. Thinking of his current strength, Dustless laughed it off. This was his biggest capital, there was nothing to be afraid of. Team Zero and Spirit King were no exception. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. He raised his dustless remnant fire Tachi high in the air. After seeing who attacked him, he noticed the Zanpakuto. Looking closely, Shidoro Thousand-Hand Maru was controlling her countless bony arms to sweep over. The number was dense. Each bony arm contained a cold light. There was some liquid in front of it, which looked like venom. Huff, Dustless sighed slightly. He found that he couldn't kill this woman. Instead, he felt guilty. He took her chastity by force and used the space coordinates in her body to successfully invade Spirit King Palace. Even if he wanted to kill her, he couldn't raise the butcher's knife. Immediately, he shook his head secretly and threw out 6 rays of light. Bakudo number 61, 6-rod light prison. Shidoro Thousand-Hand Maru's attack was stopped. She struggled to move her body but couldn't move. She suddenly found that this 6-rod light prison, that could be easily broken, was particularly difficult to deal with at this moment. Bastard, let go of me if you dare. Shidoro Senjumaru, who did not appreciate Wu Chen's kindness, pointed at Wu Chen and scolded, get out of here if you are afraid of death. The Spirit King Palace is not a place for people like you to profane. I can't profane. Then who can profane it? Wait for Yuri Habak to profane it? Dustless asked calmly. This sentence made Shidoro Thousand-Hand Maru speechless. Hee hee. Finally, it's here. At this time, Wang Yu's joyful laughter came. Dustless turned his head and waved his hand. Directly, he took out a sheathless Zanpakuto from the container filled with mysterious liquid. The body of the Zanpakuto was cold. It was slender and beautiful. It was quite extraordinary. My nickname is Sword God. This Zanpakuto is called Scabbard. Because it is too sharp, there is no suitable scabbard for it. You've been talking nonsense for a long time. What do you want to say? Wu Chen said impatiently with a touch of annoyance in his tone. After being interrupted by Dustless, Wang Yu didn't get angry. He just moved his spiritual pressure and instantly appeared in front of Dustless. The wind of the Zanpakuto swept towards Dustless' face. What I want to say is, there is nothing in front of Scabbard that can't be cut, even Genryusai's Zanpakuto Tachi is no exception. Chapter 1190. What I want to say is, there is nothing that can't be cut, even Genryusai's Zenka no Tachi is no exception. The moment his voice fell, the Zanpakuto released a cold light and stabbed towards Dustless's eyes. Clang! In the blink of an eye, there was a loud roar. Wang Yu's arm that was holding the Zanpakuto trembled, and suddenly found that something blocked his attack. It doesn't matter if you can destroy Captain Yamamoto's Zanpakuto, but please be clear about one thing, I am not Captain Yamamoto. Dustless spat out cold air from his dry mouth, looked up and saw that his left arm was covered with armament haki, and he grabbed the incoming black Zanpakuto with his bare hand. All the members of Team Zero were stunned, including Shirodora Senjumaru. Even First Soldier was no exception. He didn't doubt Nimia Wangyue's sword-making skills at all. When this indestructible Zanpakuto was first made, Nimia Wangyue even bragged to them that it could easily cut a Shinigami in half. But now it was caught by Dustless with his bare hand. Get lost. With a whisper, his left eye quickly turned into Tensigen, and a majestic repulsion erupted from the palm of his hand. Bang bang bang. Under the attack of the repulsion, Nimia disappeared in an instant. A soldier from the War Master's division hurriedly glanced at the others. The members of Squad Zero were puzzled, but they nodded and attacked Wu Chen ferociously in unison. However, Dustless was wearing the broken sun prison clothes, so they used Hades to attack Dustless, and it seemed that they wanted to delay time. The members of Team Zero were also afraid to get close to Dustless. The temperature of 15 million degrees was no joke. It was enough to melt and evaporate a person in an instant. Kirin Temple's Tensigan Langyu raised his palm, and the Ryatsu floated, and a majestic dragon head appeared, roaring majestically, third of Hades, iron wind kill. Whiz whiz whiz. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind blew towards them. The entire Spirit King Palace was shaking. Many of the palaces floating in the void were shaking as if they were about to collapse. Not only that, the broken sun prison robe that enveloped Dustless's body was also blown away by the violent hurricane. Li Padao? Hearing this, Dustless's eyes flashed with doubt. Looking at the dragon head in Qilin Temple's Tian Shilang's hand, astonishment appeared in his eyes. This Li Padao's essence was above Padao. Of course, it didn't mean that he was stronger than Padao. It only represented the identity of Team Zero. Petty tricks. Dustless fearlessly faced the oncoming hurricane. He walked forward courageously. This hurricane was extremely terrifying. It was as sharp as a blade. Wherever it passed, deep cracks would appear. Raising his right arm coldly, a huge flash of light appeared and locked onto Wang Yu. Dao Breaker 88, Flying Dragon Strikes Thief, Sky-Shaking Lightning Bubble. An incomparably thick golden light whizzed out. It was like an unparalleled golden spear piercing towards Wang Yu. The sky that it swept past was distorted. This guy's attainment in Dao Breaker is so deep. The 88th Dao Breaker can actually display a power that surpasses the 90th Dao Breaker. Qilin Temple's Tian Shirlang exclaimed. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. At the critical moment, a black shadow blocked in front of Qilin Temple's Tian Shirlang. He directly used his thick brush and Zanpakudo to write a huge, seal, word towards the sky. Boom boom boom. The flash of light blasted onto the invisible barrier, and the sharpness was immediately restrained. This damn bald monk is really troublesome. Such a convenient ability actually fell on his head. Sometimes, God is really blind. Dustless couldn't help but curse in his heart. The ability of Soldier Division's first soldier was really too convenient. However, this was just the beginning. What happened next was even more incredible. Soldier Division's first soldier wrote the word hide on Qilin Temple's Tian Shirlang, and his whole person disappeared. Dustless released his majestic perception and carefully observed the changes around him, but found that even Qilin Temple's Tian Shirlang's spiritual pressure did not remain. It was as if he had died completely. Using observation hockey, there was no trace of him. Don't waste your effort. This is one of my abilities. There is no need to be surprised. The Spirit King Palace has existed in the world for countless years. If it could be defeated so easily by you, it might have been trampled to the ground thousands of years ago. A soldier from the War Master's division said calmly. He was extremely confident in his own abilities, as if everything was under his control. Bang bang bang. A powerful force came from the left side without warning. Dustless, who didn't feel it, was hit hard. His abdomen caved in, and he groaned in pain. He was instantly hit and slammed into the distant wall, creating a big hole full of cracks. I didn't feel it at all. Dustless was stunned. He was sure that the person who attacked him was Qilin Temple's Tian Shirlang, but he didn't feel it at all. The affairs of the world are unpredictable. I have challenged countless experts before. I didn't expect that I would stumble here. If I remember correctly, this is the first time in my life that I have been sent flying by a kick. Dustless, who stood up again, was in perfect condition. Carelessness can happen once, but it can't happen a second time. Good luck can't always accompany you. Dustless secretly used the Glint Fruit's elemental transformation ability. He had just suffered a small loss because of his carelessness, but such a good opportunity will never happen a second time. Chapter 1191. Dustless's confident words made everyone stunned, and then there was a burst of disdainful laughter. No one is an exception to my ability, you'd better surrender. A soldier of the Ho's division laughed contemptuously, full of confidence in his own ability. You will regret it if you resist. Glancing at Dustless, a soldier of the Ho's division appeared next to Shiro Tongsen, Shidoro Senjimaru, and others. He wrote the word hide on their bodies. Then the same scene played out. At the moment when the pen stopped, several people disappeared. Whether it was Ryatsu or smell, they couldn't be perceived. Dustless tried to use observation haki to search for traces of several people again, and the result was the same as before. This ability is really good, even observation haki can't find them. Dustless sighed. Now in such a big world, only he and a soldier of the Ho's division were left. Everyone else was hidden with the ability of a soldier of the Ho's division. Boom! The light all over his body dissipated, splashing all over the ground like raindrops. Humph! Your mouth is sharp, but your body is still injured. Seeing Dustless's body split in two, a soldier of the Ho's division sneered, "Young man, there is no invincible ability in this world, you should." The words on the tip of his tongue stopped abruptly, and following the line of sight of a soldier of the Ho's division, Dustless's body, which fell to the ground in two, floated a faint light, turned into thousands of light particles, and approached Dustless, repairing the damaged body, and in the blink of an eye, it was restored to its original state. You are right, there is no invincible ability in this world, but at least my ability is invincible to you. Dustless retorted. These words made a soldier of the Ho's division's face turn green, ashamed and angry. His eyes quietly turned around in front of him. Even if he couldn't see people, Dustless knew that the members of the Zero Squad were quietly waiting for an opportunity. Although I can't see you, it doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. A wave of air spread out from the void. Dustless's words fell into everyone's ears. You can't even see the enemy. What right do you have to continue fighting? Crossing his arms in front of his chest, a soldier from the War Master's division mocked. Dustless quietly looked at the soldier commander's first soldier. He finally knew that Yawatch had chosen to forcefully dismember him in the future. This guy isn't strong. It's hard to tell who's stronger between him and head Captain Yamamoto when it comes to fighting strength. His temper is really bad. Dustless thought. At the same time, a pitch-black energy ball appeared in his hand. It was extremely dense and dangerous. The moment it appeared, the entire world was affected by an invisible energy fluctuation. Although I can't see you, but, Dustless's lips curled into a cruel smile. His eyes emitted a terrifying red light. His repressed smile made the world of the Spirit King Palace fall into a dead silence. As long as I destroy this world, they won't be spared. As soon as he finished speaking, the energy ball in Dustless's hand floated into the sky. At the same time, two opposite forces of yin and yang gathered in his palms. A moon appeared in one of his palms, and a sun appeared in the other. 6 paths, Chibaku Tensei. As the powerful roar fell, everything was destroyed. The ground was shaking, and the sky was crying. The cloudless sky of the Spirit King Palace dimmed. A powerful gravitational force that could destroy the world suddenly descended. Ka. Under the influence of the boundless spiritual pressure, the Spirit King Palace collapsed instantly. Everything turned into ashes. The Spirit King Palace that had been built for nearly 1,000 years collapsed in an instant. The fragments of the buildings all floated into the sky, and the originally incomparably narrow bead instantly increased in size by 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Bastard! A soldier from the Ho's division cursed. Perhaps Dustless couldn't see it, but he saw it clearly. The members of the Zero Squad were struggling to resist the gravitational force. Even so, their bodies were still floating up uncontrollably. Destroy that black energy ball. It should be the weak point. A soldier from the War Master division quickly shouted as his pupils constricted. As expected of the leader of the Zero Squad. His strength is not bad, and his eyesight is so sharp. He instantly saw through the weakness of Chibaku Tensei. But what's the use? Staring at the endless attacks flying toward Chibaku Tensei, Rinnegan emitted some light. Will Grave, border prison. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in the void, and dozens of shadows flashed together. The shadows were dressed and looked the same. They were all based on the original body of Dustless. Boom boom boom. The colorful attacks exploded and turned into a violent energy shock wave that swept out. The powerful spiritual pressure was so violent that the entire world of the Spirit King Palace trembled. Are you kidding me? Why did it explode? The members of the Zero Squad were stunned at this scene. They were all shocked and frightened. Looking at the giant sphere that was constantly expanding, their minds were in a mess. Looking at the flattened Spirit King Palace, a ridiculous thought appeared in everyone's mind. The Spirit King that had lasted for tens of thousands of years was probably going to be replaced from now on. Other than that, the bodies of the Zero Squad were sucked towards the Chibaku Tensei and were gradually sealed by the Chibaku Tensei. Only Wu Chen and a soldier from the War Master Division were barely unharmed. How could the attack just now explode? A soldier from the Hose Division was stunned. The air around him was restricted, and a conspicuous seal word could be seen. You actually sealed yourself. With a touch of surprise in his eyes, Dustless directly answered, your attacks were all blocked by my shadows. Dustless explained softly as if he did something insignificant. He didn't do anything, and the shadows did nothing. They used their bodies to block the fierce attacks of the Zero Squad. Chapter 1192. The Spirit King Palace had completely collapsed, and it was a mess. The entire world was flattened, and only the palace in the middle was intact. The figure in the palace was wrapped in an unknown barrier, and it looked like a precious object that was sealed. His eyes were lifeless, and it was obvious that he had no consciousness. Dustless's pupils shrank, and he immediately said his name, Spirit King. What the hell do you want to do? The soldier commander was shocked and quickly removed the seal on his body. Looking at Dustless's eager eyes, he was terrified and quickly shouted, let me tell you, Spirit King is the symbol of Hueco Mundo and Hueco Mundo. Once he dies, everything in the world will collapse and disappear. This is not good for you. Of course not. Dustless admitted it. Spirit King was indeed very important, and the whole world would be finished without Spirit King. It's good that you understand. Hearing this, the soldier commander was relieved, thinking that Dustless was willing to let Spirit King go, and the shackles on his body immediately disappeared. But the next sentence made him feel as if he was carrying 10 mountains on his back. So, I'm not killing Spirit King, but making him a part of my body's power. It would have been better if he didn't say anything. The moment he said that, a soldier from the War Master's division rushed over in a rage. Real fight, white pen. Seeing that he was fighting alone, the soldier commander released his Zanpakuto. The so-called real fight, according to the current meaning, was Bankai. Your Zanpakuto is very dangerous. Staring at the murderous soldier commander, Dustless said, once hit by your Zanpakuto, you can erase the opponent's name. Even if my Ryujin Jaka is hit by you, you can also erase his name. At that time, the ability of Ryujin Jaka will be gone forever. However, after you solve the Bankai, you will gain a new ability. You can engrave a new name on something whose name has been erased by the Bankai. If you engrave Black Ant on the target will become as weak and powerless as an ant. Dustless explained as he stared at the Zanpakuto of the soldier division. This guy, how could he know about my ability? A soldier from the Weapon Master's division was shocked and could not calm down for a long time. He remained motionless as if he had been struck by lightning. Not to mention Dustless, even the members of Squad Zero might not know of his ability. Since you know how powerful my Zanpakuto is, hurry up and surrender. I can tell you clearly, my Zanpakuto. It's better if you don't say such arrogant words. Every time you say such confident words, the fantasy in your heart is instantly shattered, Dustless said with a smile. You bastard. Hearing this, Wei, a soldier from the War Commander Division, was furious. His round eyes locked onto Wu Chen as he waved his Zanpakuto to create a ripple. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The moment it emerged, the ripples were magnified hundreds of times, turning into a ferocious slash that whistled through the air. Your Zanpakuto's ability is very good, Dustless nodded in agreement. Even Yawatch could not take away the ability of a soldier from the Weapon Master Division. His Zanpakuto's ability was exceptionally heaven-defying. Once hit by his slash, his strength would be reduced by half. Poochie. The sword pressure passed through Dustless's body and cut him in half. However, what made the soldier from the Weapon Master Division angry was that the moment he was sent flying, Dustless used his elemental transformation to ignore him. He could not hurt him at all. Bastard, fight me fair and square if you have the guts. Seeing this scene, a soldier from the Weapon Master Division vomited blood in frustration. Any of his attacks did not work on Dustless. It was completely useless. He was just humiliating himself. Old Baldy, pointing to the only remaining palace of the Spirit King Palace behind him, Dustless smiled and said, "If I'm not wrong, the person who cut off the Spirit King's limbs should be your Zero Squad." Hearing this, a soldier from the Weapon Master Division lowered his head in silence. After a while, he glanced at the Spirit King's position with a complicated expression and said helplessly, "You want to devour the Spirit King, so you should know the origin of the Spirit King." Back then, due to the instability caused by stabilizing the soul in and out, a special person was created to stabilize the soul in and out. He is the current Spirit King. Dustless smiled slightly. He already knew this. When he went to the Great Spirit Library to read the secrets of the Spirit King, Dustless happened to see this scene. Later, due to the birth of the Spirit King, the soul did indeed stabilize, and the entire soul society gradually became peaceful. A soldier from the Weapon Master Division recalled with a smile on his face, as if he was yearning for that peaceful life. But later, an accident happened to the Spirit King, and the ending that we did not want to see the most happened. His face suddenly stiffened. A soldier from the Weapon Master Division said with a heavy look in his eyes, "The Spirit King actually gave birth to consciousness." This was the result that we did not want to see the most, because he was only created as a tool. A tool with consciousness is not a tool, and he would not listen to us. So we cut off his limbs, took away the Spirit King's consciousness and heart, and sealed the Spirit King until today. The Spirit King is a collection of souls, and has endless power, more powerful than your Hogyoku. A soldier from the Weapon Master Division said in a heavy tone, and then he said angrily, "The world is unpredictable, and we thought that this matter would end here. Who would have thought that Yawatch, as a part of the Spirit King's body, would lead Quincy to take revenge on the Death God?" The result was the tragic battle that happened 1,000 years ago. Although Yawatch was defeated, he was a part of the Spirit King, and he could not be killed. So Yuan Lu Zai used the same method to take away Yawatch's power and heartbeat. Chapter 1193. Dustless wasn't surprised after listening to the long speech of the first soldier. It was almost the same as what he thought. Soul Society's original intention was to create a tool to maintain the soul, Sai King, and use him as a tool. Who would have thought that this tool would develop consciousness, and the Reapers, who realized that he was too dangerous, cut off Sai King's limbs and made him lose his heart and will. Now they even sealed his soul. "You guys, it's all your own fault." Dustless mocked mercilessly, "If it were me, I would also kill this Reapers and wash away the shame." For some reason, Dustless suddenly sympathized with Yawatch. "You." A soldier from the War Master's Division was angered by Wu Chen's words. He shouted, "We have no choice but to sacrifice him for the good of the world. This is justice. So it's natural for Yawatch to hate you Reapers." Dustless said disdainfully, and he had a new understanding of the Reaper's pedantry. "However, I still want Sai King to be a part of me." Dustless still refused to let go. If he didn't take Sai King, Yawatch would be the one who would benefit. This was helping the enemy. "Humph, I thought I could dispel your unrealistic thoughts, but it's useless now." The first soldier raised his Zanpakuto again, and his meaning was self-evident. 1,000 miles heaven palm. Spiritual pressure fluctuated in his hand, and a huge palm of flesh rushed over. "Old thing, you don't have a memory at all." Dustless couldn't help but shake his head, and he also raised his arm, and a huge palm of flesh formed in an instant. 1,000 miles heaven palm. The same move flew out from Dustless's mouth, and he used it twice in a row, and it was as powerful as the first soldier. Boom, boom, boom. The two huge palms inevitably collided, and a series of explosions resounded through the world, and a large amount of flames erupted. Shoo, shoo, shoo. An afterimage flashed out of the flames, pouncing at the speed of light, and the pen-shaped Zanpakuto slashed down horizontally. Poochie. Dustless, who was caught off guard, was instantly cut into two and brutally dismembered. However, in the next second, the body that was cut into two started to turn into photons. In less than a few seconds, Dustless recovered. This guy. Seeing this, Dustless had a headache. He really wanted to use some sort of illusion attack to test the effect, but other than him, everyone else in Team Zero was finished. Looking at the giant meteorite with the bright moon hanging high in the sky, the soldiers of the War Master Division trembled with fear. He was afraid that Dustless would fall and destroy the Spirit King Palace. Stop playing house. I'm not interested in playing with you anymore. Wuchen glanced at the guards of the War Master Division, then turned his head to look at the void behind him. A large word, seal, could be seen clearly, forming a transparent barrier. The entire Spirit King Palace was divided into two worlds because of this word. What? Could it be that you want to break my barrier by force? A soldier from the War Master's Division sneered at Dustless's arrogance. Huh? What is that? Green light? The strange light around Dustless attracted the attention of a soldier from the War Master's Division. The emerald light was quite beautiful, and it covered Dustless. Dustless's temperament also changed drastically. He was very cold, and his indifferent eyes looked at the soldier from the War Master's Division like a bug. This is the chakra mode of the Tensigen. Dustless kindly explained to the soldier from the War Master's Division. I don't care what mode you are in. My seal. The soldier from the War Master's Division stopped talking and looked up at Dustless, who was flying in the sky. He frowned as he noticed several mysterious beads floating behind Dustless. That's it, Spirit King Palace. With a wave of her hand, the beads behind her flew in front of Dustless, then they turned into liquid and gathered on Dustless's right arm. Vaguely, a destructive light could be seen. Golden Wool Reincarnation Explosion. As soon as he finished speaking, countless slender light swords slashed out and flew straight towards the enchantment that had the word seal written on it. Crack. A crisp sound directly stunned the soldier from the War Master's Division. The enchantment that he painstakingly created was like a watermelon that was penetrated and crushed by the golden light. It's just a so-so. The green light on the surface of Dustless's skin disappeared. He glanced at the soldier from the War Master's Division and left like a gust of wind. Stop right there. Seeing this, the soldier from the War Master's Division was shocked. He activated Shuanpa and quickly blocked in front of Dustless. Back off. The soldier from the War Master's Division shouted. His tone was filled with flames that burned people's skin. Old monk, you've blocked in front of me time and time again. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Seeing this, Wuchen gradually became more irritated. An unkillable bug, relying on its own ability to jump in front of you again and again, was very hateful. Since you want to die so badly, I'll grant you your wish. Dustless snorted. Cold chi was pulsing all over his body. A black metal rod appeared in his hand. It was extremely black. It was the yin-yang escape technique. This technique was most suitable to completely crush the enemy. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With a powerful swing, the black metal rod flew out. You want to kill me with this? Dream on. You can't even hit me. Just as the soldier from the War Master's Division was about to move his body, he was shocked to find that he was being hugged and could not move at all. Farewell. You have been subdued by my shadow. Be a good boy and wait for your death. Dustless brushed past the soldier from the War Master's Division. He did not even look at him as he walked towards the Spirit King Palace. Pfft! The black metal rod finally hit the soldier from the War Master's Division. His body began to collapse. Chapter 1194. In the huge Spirit King Palace, Dustless was the only one walking alone. The soldier division was hit by the Yin-Yang escape, and there was no other choice but death. As for the other 4 members of the Zero Squad, they were all sealed by Dustless inside the 6 paths, Chibaku Tensei. Without a doubt, the final winner was Dustless. After so many years, my long-cherished wish finally came true. Looking at the only remaining palace in front of him, Dustless was full of smiles, and he couldn't help but walk faster. So. At this time, the passers-by suddenly appeared and blocked Dustless's path like a city wall. Women? Looking at the girls who suddenly appeared in front of him, Dustless frowned and said coldly, "It's just a group of created Zanpakuto. If you don't want to die, get out of my way." These girls in front of him were all hot girls, and they were all created by Wang Yu. But this group of people obviously didn't have the consciousness of the weak, and they completely ignored Dustless's words. "Let our master out, or else, Pucci." The ferocious saber wind shot out, and before the girl with the hot figure could finish speaking, she was chopped into 2 halves, and blood flowed out non-stop. Heido 54, Waste Flame. It seemed that the corpse that was split into 2 was too much of an eyesore. Wuchen directly turned it into powder, completely ignoring the hostile eyes of the rest of the girls, like a gust of wind passing by. "Sisters, do it!" Someone shouted, and the group of created Zanpakuto girls all pulled out their swords and looked at Dustless. The ignorant are fearless. Turning his head faintly and glancing at this group of impassioned Zanpakuto, Wuchen shouted softly, and the whole world returned to calm again. Heido 90, Black Coffin. The black light from the sky shredded the girls, and they all fell to the ground with wounds all over their bodies. "Seriously. Firstly, you don't have strength. Secondly, you don't have beauty. Thirdly, you even dared to launch a sneak attack on me. Why wouldn't I kill you?" Dustless shook his head and continued to walk towards the Spirit King Palace. He did not even look at the corpse. Inside the dark hall, the entire world of the Spirit Fong Palace had been reduced to rubble. Only this place remained unscathed. Of course, this was Dustless's intention. Boom, boom, boom. The room suddenly began to tremble. A cold murderous aura shattered everything in the room. "So it's here." A figure walked out from the darkness. Looking at the Spirit King embedded in a special seal, Dustless could not help but sigh. "King of the Grim Reaper. You're really pitiful. Your limbs were cut off and your heart and consciousness were taken away. You should be blaming this world, right? Don't worry, I'm going to liberate you now." The Spirit King was silent. He just opened his eyes quietly, no different from the vegetative person that Dustless had experienced in his previous life. It was completely treated as a fair sacrifice. Hee. I didn't expect it to be you." In the dark space, there was a sudden vicissitude of emotion. It was like a living fossil from thousands of years ago. It was very old. "Who is it? Get out of here." Dustless was stunned and immediately burst out, looking left and right, while his observation haki spread out. "There's no one." Dustless whispered, and immediately felt that someone was watching him, and suddenly raised his head. "It's you. You're the Spirit King, how can you talk?" Staring, Dustless was horrified. He did not expect the Spirit King to be able to talk. "Why can't I talk?" The Spirit King frowned and said very doubtfully. This, asked by the Spirit King, Dustless was speechless. He quietly looked at him, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "You're a Grim Reaper?" The Spirit King looked at Dustless unkindly, his eyes were obviously filled with murderous intent, and shouted, "I will not let you go." "Pucci." Wu Chen was silent. What he got in response was a slash. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, Soul Society and the modern world trembled fiercely, including Hueco Mundo. As if there was a large earthquake of tens of magnitude, a huge narrow gap appeared, stretching for more than 10 kilometers. Even the Spirit King Palace in front of him was the same, the space was gradually damaged, and there were signs of collapse. It seems that killing the Spirit King will really cause the world to collapse. Perceiving the vibration of the outside world, Dustless whispered, and even the 6 paths Chibaku Tensei he released had a huge gap. Bastard, you dare to use me as a test subject? The Spirit King was furious, his eyes fiercely staring at Dustless, and roared, "Make it clear to me, I am your Grim Reaper, how dare you? Shut up, you idiot." With a touch of anger in his eyes, Dustless directly picked up a piece of small step to seal the Spirit King's mouth, and sneered, "You will become a part of my body, and I will be the new Spirit King." Without waiting for the Spirit King to speak, Dustless's eyes changed, and a majestic spiritual power invaded his mind, instantly crushing his memory, and turned him into a vegetative existence. Anyway, as long as the Spirit King was not dead, everything would be fine. Taking out the pearl prepared before, it was blue, similar to the Hogyoku, but there was an essential difference. Dustless planned to integrate the Spirit King's whole body into it, and then fuse with the pearl, directly stuffing the Spirit King into his body. Thinking about it made him feel cold, but Dustless could accept such a method. Chapter 1195. Raising his head to look at the Spirit King's body, Dustless still chose this method, stuffing a big man alive into his body. Thinking about it, Dustless felt a chill and uneasiness, his whole body involuntarily having goosebumps. A strange black liquid emerged from his 5 fingers. The moment Dustless touched Soul King, he began to peel off layer by layer, turning into a black liquid that dripped into the ball prepared by Dustless. In the blink of an eye, the blue ball turned black, surrounded by a black fog, looking quite scary, especially Dustless's face began to turn black. Or it could be said that it was dyed black by the black fog. It's really slow. Watching the liquid drop by drop into the ball, Dustless couldn't help but whisper. At the same time, a crazy plan appeared in his mind. 2 of Uraba's guards are Soul King's left arm and heart, Yukatake Jushru is Soul King's right arm, as long as I integrate them into this ball. Thinking about it, Wu Chen was incomparably passionate. Both of his eyes glowed and shot out a green light of greed. Once the severed body of the Spirit King was completely integrated into it, the power of this main body would also inevitably receive a dimensional upgrade. At that time, Dustless's strength will naturally increase. Let's wait a few days. Looking at Soul King slowly liquefying, Dustless sighed. In the Black Void Palace, Aizen Sosuke always sat on his throne with a sour face. "Jin, did you find out the source of the tremors?" Aizen suddenly opened his eyes and looked down at the smiling Ikamaru Jin. Aizen quietly asked. "Not yet." Jin shook his head. The light tone and the fox's smile made people can't help but doubt whether it was true or not. But, remembering Aizen Sosuke's request, Ikamaru Jin replied, "But just as Sosuke Aizen thought, it's not just Hueco Mundo, but also the modern realm and soul society. This is impossible." Sosuke Aizen showed a rare look of astonishment and said in a heavy tone, "It shouldn't be that Soul King died. If he suddenly fell, the entire world would slowly collapse. Soul Society, Hueco Mundo, and the main world all had the same cracks, but they didn't collapse. It might be a coincidence." Aizen lowered his head and muttered. In fact, he himself was full of doubts. If it was a coincidence, then it was too strange. Soul Society, the modern world, and Hueco Mundo all shook at the same time. Just thinking about it made Aizen feel that it was illogical. What are the recent movements of the Soul Society? Changing the topic, Aizen thought of Dustless, his nightmarish old enemy. Ever since he appeared, Aizen had been abandoned by Urahara Kisuke. Dustless was his #1 enemy. I don't know either. The newly appointed Captain Dustless hasn't shown up for the 2 captain meetings recently. It's all left to Captain Uno Flower to handle. Jin shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. In these 5 days, Wu Chen had been inside the Spirit King, slowly dissolving the Spirit King's body. His head was full of sweat, and he did not dare to be careless. If the Spirit King died, the entire world would slowly be annihilated. Phew. It's finally done. After who knows how long, excited laughter came from the real Soul King Palace. Looking at the black sphere in his hand, Dustless was filled with anticipation. He had already merged Soul King's entire body into it in liquid form, and it didn't hurt his organs. The only difference was that he was living in a vegetative state. Next, it's the last step. Looking at the black sphere in his hand for a while, Dustless gritted his teeth and stuffed it into his chest without hesitation. Boom boom boom. Endless Ryatsu aftermath broke out from the black ball, and the majestic force began to go berserk. Almost instantly, all the tissues and cells in Wuchen's body disintegrated. His internal organs were crushed by the torrent in an instant. Cough cough, his face was as pale as snow, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Dustless's mouth also had some dark red blood stains, and the bones in his body seemed to have softened. He didn't have the slightest strength, and it was very strenuous to support his body. Now, even an ordinary human could kill him hundreds of times. It's just a sphere, and it can actually resist. His weak cheeks emitted a touch of Yin Qi, and Dustless's majestic spiritual power invaded the black sphere. The boundless spiritual power was almost endless. As a 10-tailed Dustless, all aspects of his attributes could be said to be perfect. About half an hour later, the black sphere's color changed greatly, and was replaced by a dazzling golden light. Sacred and majestic, the earth-shaking spiritual pressure floated out from Dustless's body. Boom boom boom. The 6 paths Chibaku Tensei that was previously heavily injured, was directly torn into pieces by the impact of the supreme momentum. The huge meteorite turned into fragments and fell to the ground. Dustless's temperament and appearance also changed dramatically, and he fully controlled the power of Soul King. Chapter 1196. The high-density Ryatsu continued to erupt, and the void around Dustless was all torn apart. The violent energy ripples spread wildly, and the places affected would make a buzzing, trembling sound, as if begging for mercy. Even the quality of the spiritual pressure erupting from Dustless was so high that it flowed all over the ground, dyeing the clean ground golden. It was very beautiful. The space behind Dustless was directly shattered, and endless black light shot out. It was like the abyss of the universe, filled with the gravitational force that could destroy the world. It was the graveyard of all living things. This feeling is really great. Carefully experiencing the earth-shaking changes, Dustless slightly moved his muscles and bones, and the pleasant rhythm was very crisp and pleasant to the ears. No wonder Yawatch loves Spirit King so much. This cheating device is even more powerful than Hogyoku. Looking at the black bead on his chest, Dustless smiled complacently. The Ryatsu in his body was dozens of times stronger than before, even 100 times more exaggerated. The Hogyoku was made from the souls of Shinigami and Hollow selected by Aizen and Kisuke Urahara. The Spirit King was almost the collection of all souls, so it was more powerful than the Hogyoku. Boom boom boom. At this time, the palace Dustless was in suddenly suffered a heavy blow, and 2 giant holes were chiseled out. The bright morning sun shone in, and Dustless instinctively closed his eyes. In a trance, he saw a few figures descending from the sky. Where did you hide the first soldier of the War Master Division? Several members of Team Zero who escaped from 6 paths, Chibaku Tensei, questioned. They noticed that Soldier 1's spiritual pressure suddenly disappeared, and there was no trace of him in the world of Spirit King Palace. You are talking about that monk, sorry, he has been eliminated by me. Dustless stretched and smiled casually. You, Kirin Temple Tenchilang looked around, squinting his eyes as if he was looking for something. After a while, he screamed, Bastard, where is Lord Spirit King? Why is Lord Spirit King not here? These words shocked all the members of Team Zero, and they all opened their eyes wide to look for traces of the Spirit King. After a few seconds, they received a terrifying result. The Spirit King had already disappeared. You don't have to look anymore. I've replaced the previous guy and become the new Spirit King. Dustless reminded them out of goodwill when he saw that they were looking for him with distressed faces. Impossible. Qilan Temple's Tian Shilang and Heir Meiwu's Wang Yu angrily roared in unison. Their voices were a bit sharp and were neither fish nor fowl. When they were raised, it was extremely frightening. Their faith collapsed, and the two of them looked like they had gone insane. Looks like you won't listen. Glancing at the two with pity, Dustless's eyes fell on Sayaso Tongsai and Shidoro Senjimaru. He opened his chest, revealing a black pearl. Those two boorish men don't know what's good for them. You two should know what this is, right? Even if you two don't know, your bodies should be able to sense it. Hearing this, the four of them stared at the black pearl on Dustless's chest. At this moment, it was shining, extremely bewitching, like a gem shining with gorgeous colors. This is your Lord Spirit King. He has already submitted to me and become a part of my body's strength. With a proud smile, Dustless continued to attack. The eyes of the several people were dull and lifeless. Obviously, they were still in shock from the fall of the Spirit King. Especially after hearing that the first soldier of the Hyabet division had fallen, it was as if they had lost their backbone. Their eyes were full of confusion about the future. The Spirit King's power in their body had a reaction to the black pearl on Dustless's chest, which also meant that the Spirit King had already become a part of Dustless. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Heir Meiwu's Wang Yu and Qilan Temple's Tian Shilang suddenly launched an attack. Taking advantage of Dustless's carelessness, the two easily subdued Dustless, and their Zanpakuto were pressed against Dustless's throat. Ayaya, it seems that you guys still intend to be stubborn. Originally, I thought that after I became the new Spirit King, I could make you guys wake up. Now, it seems that my thoughts are somewhat naive. Dustless said leisurely. Then, he looked at the two people provocatively and coldly snorted, "You guys can make your move now. After killing me, you can immediately take revenge for the first soldier of the Hyabet division. However, if you feel that you can bear the consequences, feel free to come." The spirit pressure in his body was still, and chakra also didn't show any signs of erupting. Dustless didn't make any attack or defense, and only provoked Qilan Temple's Tian Shilang and Heir Meiwu's Wang Yu. You think we don't dare? Narrowing his eyes, Heir Meiwu's Wang Yu coldly asked. Of course not. It's up to you whether you want to kill me or not. Your hands are on your body, and I can't control you. However, before we act, I have something to remind the both of you. Now that I have tamed the Spirit King, from a certain point of view, I have already merged with that bead, which is also your Spirit King. If I die, he will not be able to escape. You should know what the consequences of a Spirit King's death are. Finished speaking, Dustless smiled proudly. He didn't believe that Qilan Temple's Tian Shilang and Heir Meiwu's Wang Yu would kill him. They couldn't afford the disastrous consequences after the death of the Spirit King. But obviously, Dustless made a mistake this time. He only saw a blade light coming. Humph, don't underestimate people too much. Pay the price for your arrogance. Heir Meiwu's Zanpakuto swept over. Qilan Temple's Tian Shilang also did the same. Both of them made their move at the same time. Courting death. His whole body shook, and the vast spirit pressure surged. Just as he was about to kill the two people, someone else cleaned up the mess for Dustless. Puchi. Puchi. Heir Meiwu's Wang Yu and Qilan Temple's Tian Shilang were hit in the back, leaving a huge hideous wound. The two people's attack stagnated, and they fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, not only Heir Meiwu's Wang Yu and Qilan Temple's Tian Shilang were stunned, Dustless was also stunned. They looked at the culprit. Chapter 1197. It happened so suddenly that not only Dustless was stunned and sluggish, but the victims, Wang Yu Nyamiya and Tenshiro of Qilan Temple, also turned their heads in anger out of shame. It's you too. Dustless stared blankly at the person who released the black blade. It turned out to be Shura Thousand-Hand Maru and Sayaso Tongsai. Bastard, what do you two mean by this? Wang Yu Nyamiya endured the stinging pain all over her body and almost roared out, Is he the one who murdered Lord Spirit King? He is the enemy of death, now, we have already lost. You two are the ones who are rebellious, and you two are also the ones who are stubborn. He has become Spirit King, and you two still want to kill him. If this isn't rebellious, then what is? Looking at Dustless with a complicated look, Syaso Tongsai's heart was filled with emotions. His mixed feelings couldn't hide the bitterness in his heart. The former enemy had become their god in one fell swoop. The change was not small. Ayaya, I thought Squad Zero was an idiot who stuck to the rules. Now, there are finally two enlightened ones. Dustless said with a smile. She skipped to the side of Shura Thousand-Hand Maru. When she was about to get closer to him, her cold voice made Dustless's smile freeze. What I acknowledge is your identity as the Spirit King. As for you as a person, forget it. Shura Thousand-Hand Maru's tone was indifferent. Looking at Dustless, there was only endless coldness. It could be seen that if it wasn't for the identity of Spirit King, she would have already brandished her blade to kill Dustless. It's really cold. Seeing this, Dustless could only sigh helplessly. He had used her time and time again, so it was natural for her to be hostile to him. What about you two? Are you going to continue to oppose me or choose to surrender? Turning his head to look at the pale Wang Yunayamiya and Tenshiro of Chilan Temple, Dustless asked indifferently, if you choose to continue to resist, only death awaits you. Wang Yunayamiya and Tenshiro of Chilan Temple couldn't help but fly into a rage. Their red eyes stared at Shura Thousand-Hand Maru and Syaso Tongsai at the same time. The two of you actually betrayed Team Zero. Have you forgotten the original concept of Team Zero? The purpose of your existence is to protect the Spirit King, and now you are turning against a traitor? Chilan Temple's Tianqilang was both angry and shocked. Even Dustless turned a deaf ear to him. The ones who don't understand the situation are the two of you. He is the Spirit King now. You should know the consequences of killing him. Shidoro Senjumaru said expressionlessly. Her tone revealed a trace of headache. Her former enemy had instantly become the supreme leader of their Shinigami. This huge contrast made her somewhat dizzy. If we can't kill him, then we should seal him. The Spirit King's instinct is just a tool to maintain the entry and exit of Soul Society's souls. Clenching his teeth, Chilan Temple's Tian Sherlang stubbornly said. TSK, TSK, TSK. I've just become the new Spirit King, and I'm already witnessing Team Zero's internal strife. To think that I would be able to witness such a rare scene of fratricide. The heavens are really kind to me. Casually finding a stone to sit down, Dustless smiled. His words made Chilan Temple's Tian Sherlang and Nyamiya's Wang Yu go berserk. The culprit of everything is this bastard. I'll show you now. Nyamiya's Wang Yu roared. After that, he rushed forward with his Zanpakuto. The me 10 minutes ago and the me now are completely different. There is no need to even make a move to deal with the two of you. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and an explosive spiritual pressure broke out of his body. Boom, boom, boom. In the void, a spectacular spiritual flame burned. The sky was filled with majestic golden light. Endless majesty floated from Dustless's body. Ka ka ka. Nyamiya's Wang Yu suddenly stopped. He looked at the indifferent Dustless in horror. His whole body trembled uncontrollably. His skin began to slowly ooze blood, and his body made popping sounds. All the bones in his body were crushed by Dustless's spiritual pressure. This is my current strength. Do you think you are still qualified to seal me? Dustless joked. Then, seeing the murderous intent and hatred in Nyamiya's eyes, he made up his mind and even more violent spiritual pressure spurted out. Bang bang bang. Nyamiya's Wang Yu, who couldn't bear the pressure, exploded and turned into a pile of blood mist. Even his bones were not left. His whole body was crushed by Dustless. Gulp. Seeing this, Shidoro Senjumaru and Seo Tongsai choked and looked at Dustless with awe and horror. The eyes that were indifferent to all living things were obviously the legendary god. All life in his eyes were just insects that could be destroyed with a raise of his hand. He just crushed Nehemiah's Wang Yu with spiritual pressure. You bastard, I'm going to kill you. Seeing that his companion and friend of many years was killed, Kirin Temple Tenshula went berserk on the spot and rushed up with his strange Zanpakuto. I thought that killing him could wake you up and see the reality clearly. Now it seems that my idea was too naive. Killing Nehemiah's Wang Yu didn't wake you up. Instead, it backfired. Dustless said with pity. Team Zero was a qualified thug. If they were obedient, Dustless didn't want to kill them. But some people always like to court death. A white flash appeared on his finger. Dustless aimed at the head of Kirin Temple Tenshula, and the light whistled out. Fourth path of destruction, white thunder. The insignificant white thunder turned into a rolling divine thunder that covered an area of 100 meters in diameter. The speed was also very fast and disappeared in a flash. Boom boom boom. Kirin Temple Tenshula disappeared, and not even the remains of his bones were left. It was even more thorough than Nehemiah's Wang Yu. After obtaining the power of Spirit King, Dustless's strength was enhanced. Seeing these living creatures, there was only one feeling: to destroy them with a raise of his hand. Chapter 1198. This unstoppable strength made Shidoro Senjumaru and Sayaso Tongsai feel a chill. They were both stunned, and their scalps were numb. The power of White Thunder could be so powerful that it killed the members of Team Zero without any effort. Are you surprised? To be honest, I'm also surprised. Dustless showed a faint smile, feeling the vigorous power fluctuation in his body, showing a fascinated and enjoying expression. This endless Ryatsu made him feel as if he was floating in the clouds, which was very comfortable. And this is only a part of the Spirit King. His 4 limbs and one of his hearts are still drifting outside. We must retrieve them. Ignoring the surprise of Shidoro Senjumaru and Sayaso Tongsai, Dustless muttered to himself. I'm warning you, you are now Spirit King, and you are not allowed to leave Spirit King Palace. Shidoro Senjumaru said with a straight face. The dignified Spirit King, the chisel of all living things, once Dustless, as the Spirit King, died, they would all be unlucky. This was also one of the fundamental reasons why Team Zero worked hard to protect Spirit King. Hearing this, Dustless smiled strangely and said flatteringly, since you admit that I am Spirit King, then you should help me. Sayaso Tongsai and Shidoro Senjumaru frowned, especially at this moment. The Ryatsu hidden in Sayaso Tongsai's body was completely used up. The recovered hot body was particularly attractive, as if there was a gravitational force that attracted Dustless's gaze. This pervert, Shidoro Senjumaru cursed in his heart, secretly scolding Dustless for eating in the bowl, but still thinking about the pot. He looked straight at Sayaso Tongsai's eyes. His face was full of longing, and it was really hateful in the eyes of Shidoro Senjumaru. Cough. Dustless seemed to be aware of the resentment in Shidoro Senjumaru's eyes. He smiled and retracted his gaze, and said, whether it is Yukatake Jushiro, Yawatch, or his guards, they are all part of Spirit King's identity. I must take them all back. You two must help me. This is an order. Dustless said with a straight face. There was no room for negotiation, and his firm tone was unshakable. Yawatch is fine, but Yukatake Jushiro, Sayaso Tongsai and Shidoro Senjumaru looked at each other and saw the hesitation in each other's eyes. If they killed Jushiro Yukatake for no reason, they wouldn't be able to accept it. After all, he had worked hard for Soul Society for hundreds of years. As expected, I can't count on you guys. Dustless sighed. He was just saying it casually and did not have much hope. He could do it himself. However, there is something that you must help me with. Dustless took a step back and said, I think you should all understand the structure of the Hogyoku. I need you two to make a batch for me. A batch? Hearing this, the faces of Shidoro Senjumaru and Sayaso Tongsai twitched. They looked at Dustless speechlessly and incredulously, and asked, now that you have the power of Spirit King, things like Hogyoku should be dispensable. And how many Hogyoku are you talking about? It should not be as simple as one or two. Sayaso Tongsai looked at Dustless in surprise and continued to ask, "Are you saying that you are going to give the Hogyoku to others?" "Yes." Dustless nodded and said bluntly, "I have a lot of subordinates, but their overall strength is not strong. I need Hogyoku to improve their strength." "But there is no need to make a batch." Shidoro Senjumaru was speechless, but he felt a sense of belonging to Dustless. A person who could understand and take care of his subordinates was the best. Now that the Spirit King Palace has been destroyed, it is impossible for us to make Hogyoku. Shidoro Senjumaru and Sayaso Tongsai glared at Dustless fiercely, and then said angrily, "You are the initiator of all this. This is very simple. The previous Spirit King is gone. Now that I have replaced him, it is natural to change to a new Spirit King Palace." Hearing this, Dustless smiled, and a ball flew out from his hand, slowly floating in the air, and constantly expanding. "What is this thing?" Sayaso Tongsai was curious and immediately asked, "Are you planning to use this to recreate the Spirit King?" "Why can't I?" Wuchen didn't fight back and asked. Immediately, his will erupted, and the void continued to expand, turning into an unprecedentedly large sphere. Everything that the truth-seeking jade came into contact with outside collapsed, and inside the truth-seeking jade, an ideal world was slowly taking shape according to Dustless's will. In the blink of an eye, the interior of the truth-seeking jade formed a retro world of pavilions, rockery, and flowing water. There were even a few migratory birds swaying in the sky, and rare rabbits rolling and playing on the green grass. How is this possible? Shidoro Senjumaru and Sayaso Tongsai opened their mouths wide, and their jaws were about to dislocate. Both of them belonged to the category of mad scientists, and they had endless curiosity about unsolved mysteries. "Is this also the ability that you got by swallowing the Spirit King?" Sayaso Tongsai asked in shock. Her eyes were full of stars as she looked at Dustless. She was panting, and the majestic snow-capped mountain in front of her was completely exposed. Seeing Sayaso Tongsai's admiring eyes, Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He really couldn't be happy, and he was afraid that she was thinking of dissecting him at this moment. "This is one of my own abilities, and it has nothing to do with the Spirit King." Dustless put his hands into the wide captain's sleeves and said calmly, "The name of this technique is called the Truth-Seeking Jade, or to be precise, the Expanding Truth-Seeking Jade. It can create and destroy the world, and it is my unique technique." You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.